Changing minds, changing attitudes. A national platform revolutionizing a paradigm shift in our everyday life to make our country better. When people see us disjointed, they use that to divide us. The Liberian Renaissance, seeking a transformative Liberia positively. Reintroducing a new way of life for Liberia's change and transformation. This is very, very important. Join Dr. Lawrence Common Bropleh every Tuesday at 6 to 7 p.m. for the live. Greetings, 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 greetings to all my mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers. Greetings to my aunt Ding Somerville in Upper Buchanan, the Bassa people call it Goza, and that's my birthplace. Greetings to my father's people on the beautiful shores of Grandcess in Grand Crew County. Greetings, dear friends, wherever you are throughout the length and breadth of Liberia. This is your program, a special edition of the Liberian Renaissance. Changing minds aren't changing attitudes. Here we say not ethnicity, but nationality. Not individualistic attitudes, but rather the we consciousness. We the people residing in Liberia, determined to make a constructive difference. Tonight, I've got a special guest, and this is a special edition. Former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is my guest on this platform, and I've got two young men who are in training, Ruben Dolly and Caesar Fundo, who will be part of the interviewing process. We welcome all of you to this program. This program is being simulcast on more than five radio stations, inclusive of Truth FM, Fabric, ELBC, OK FM, and Prime FM. So we welcome all of our corresponding stations as we begin this special edition. Madam President, welcome.
Thank you, Larry, and let me add a welcome to all our compatriots at home and abroad.
It's good to see you. I saw you get out of your car and you're still moving as if nothing has stopped.
Well, I don't know about that, but let's see, I thank God first, given the fact that I went through, some medical experiences, but yes, I can move and I'm functional.
Great, and we thank God for that. How have you been since we last met? I remember that I was privileged to have been asked by you to bring words of consolation during the time when you lost your son, Jess, and it was a difficult one for you and your family. How are you now, madam?
Well, Larry, that's a tough one. When you have a son who has already earned an education, has established himself in professional life, has plans to work farm, has only worked in the banking system outside of the country, and to just die all of a sudden, it will always be like a stab in the heart. Every time you think about it, is one of those experiences no mother should have. So I have to continue to thank God to give me strength to accept His will as I have done, and to thank God for what He was and what He did. That He lived a good life and was a good professional. And I have so many places where he worked, because he lived in London and worked with Citibank for a while. I have so many, expressions of not only sympathy but of praise for what he did when he worked. So that was God's will.
Yes, indeed, and we will continue to pray for his peaceful repose. Now, since we last met, you started to say it, you had surgery in the United States. How are you now?
Well, I'm still under doctor's orders. So if you see me, don't do a lot, don't see many people, don't go to many places, is because the doctor has told me to maintain a certain amount of restraint on myself so that
It's kind of hard to do.
I don't do the many things I used to do so that my healing process, can be stronger and stronger. And so I try to obey the doctor's orders, but I thank God that it was a major operation and that it was done successfully. I spent some time with my son, who's a physician, in Georgia, the state of Georgia, the U.S., and got to meet all the doctors. And so my doctor tells me I'm not fully well, I must be easy and rest more, sleep more, and all of that. But and I try to obey them, but I also know that I have an obligation to do certain things, and I try to do them.
Yes, and that's the obligation we want to come to now. Let me just announce for those who are watching us through the social media platforms and as well listening to us throughout the various radio stations, you can send a message if you have a question. You can message us on 0886 546 166, 0886 546 166. You can do that, and we will read your message for the former president to respond. That number is also on WhatsApp for those of you who are outside of the bailiwicks of the Republic of Liberia. Talking about your commitment, Madam former President, how is the EJS Center, and what are the activities that they are into now, and the impact that it's having on Africa, not just Liberia?
Well, the EJS Center, which was launched in March 2020, hopes to be able, first of all, to promote women, primarily African women, who are on their journey toward leadership, and to assist them to get to the highest level of leadership in public service. And that aspect of the center is called Amuje. Amuje, as you all know, in Kru means going up, moving up. And so already we have 30 women across, I think, about 11 to 12 African countries, of women who have already dedicated themselves to public service and are aspiring to reach higher levels, even the highest level possible in their countries in public service. And so, but the center also plans to have a mini museum and archive in which the life story, my own life story, the life story of prominent African women can be exhibited and can be used as an inspiration and motivation to other young women, so as to assist them to be able to achieve their goals. And a part of this, of course, is we want to have research so that we can track how women are doing. Already we've done data on all the West African countries, women in executive office or in elective office, or in private sector, how they fare. So
Yeah.
the center is going well. We get support, of course, from some of the foundations in the United States. And with that, we've been operating now for 2 years, going into our third year. And it's a tall order. It's it's a brave effort to try and do this because it hasn't been done in many places before. But our determination is to push forward and to do, when I wanted to do the center, I had so many offers from universities. We're just working with me. My university, Harvard, is
Yeah, I
working
was going
with
to
me.
say, I know the Harvard
No,
is
Harvard
working
is
with
already
you.
working. They're going to do, something like the personal papers and digitization of them and all. And some of them wanted to say, well, let us just do the program here. But mine, even to some of my colleagues who say, well, you don't have a high population in Liberia. Liberia has a lot of problems. I said, no, I'm from Liberia.
That's right.
The center will be established in Liberia. Whatever we do, we'll do it in Liberia. And I believe that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, because, hearing you say that, you're from Liberia, and Liberia is my country. This is a nation that you love so much, and it's not up for argument. We're sitting here on this platform, changing minds and changing attitudes, a platform that was created when you were president, in the early years of your presidency. Now we've gone over 14, 15 years. How do you see this concept, Madame? Are we making progress in Liberia in changing our mindset, or is it business as usual?
Well, there's always a chance to do better. And I think that's the challenge to all of us as Liberians. One should never be satisfied with where you are. You should always aspire to doing more. And I think when it comes to attitude, that's an area that we all ought to do some self-reflection, self-introspection, and say, are we giving our best to our country? Are we talking about our country in the right way? Are we promoting our country? Do we feel like we really have ownership in our country, and therefore we have a responsibility to be able to do things for it, to do things for ourselves? Larry, you've been on this for a long time, telling people it's time to change attitudes, because there's one statement that says, your attitude determines your attitude.
Yes.
That means if you think positively, you probably find yourself moving positively, being regarded positively, being a part of a positive circle. And so that's something we can never stop talking to our I want to say comrades, but I'm not. If I say comrades, I will say, oh, you see, y'all go back to your Mojati. And so we're talking to a compatriot and say, look, all of us, some of the simple things we could do with changing attitudes. I listen to the radio. I don't listen very often anyway, but the few times I do, even in country or other country, and I hear all the rumors, the blasting, the this, the that, and I say, I wish we could find some time, to think about each one saying, what can you do to make your country better? What can you contribute to make your country better? You don't have to be in office. You don't have to be politician. You don't have to be this person. What can you do? Even if it's just joining your community to make sure that your area's clean, so Monrovia or wherever you are looks better. What can you do? If you were to think in that way, then I think, and you think collectively, that we all were thinking with that attitude, just think how we could change this country. Just think how we could work together more in unity, instead of always finding the time, just to be critical, to be commenting on all the things, to speak bad about your country. No, that doesn't stop people from free speech. I truly believe in free speech.
Well, you're a champion.
Yeah, yeah.
You passed some
And
laws
I've promoted everybody for free speech, but I'm just saying that within the confines of free speech, you can still be a person. that can contribute toward the positive image of your country, toward doing more yourself, taking more responsibility, not just benefits, but benefits with responsibility.
Yes, yes, Madam President. So let's just push that a little bit more. Um, I remember one early morning when I served you as the Minister of Information and was doing this program. You called, and I was surprised at the hour of the early morning you called, and your voice sounded very troubling. And you said to me, Larry, a 3-year-old girl has been raped. This is unacceptable. I know you got your program this evening. You need to talk about it. We still have that going on, madam. And what can we do more? Not just to bring attention to this, but to see how we can work towards curbing this.
You know, sadly so, Larry, that rape continues to be a major problem in Liberia. During my administration, we did put in the law making rape non-bailable offense. That led to all the kind of problems, of course, because so many people were judged, were arrested and put in prison. But the legal system moved slowly, so many of them could not be fully charged, to be able to have a judgment on them and to impose the penalty, the legal penalty on them. And so we have so many people in jail that there were other complaints, you know, are you holding the people in jail beyond the statutory period? So what it says is that we have to do more than just a legal thing. It's got to get back again to the whole question about attitudes. Yes, I think we can think other ways of naming and shaming, you know, in communities. If we know that there's a rapist, we can put their photograph on, you know, on a wall and people can see it. But until you can touch the hearts of men, particularly when you're dealing with small children, young girls and babies, we've got to be able to get to their conscience and say, you just can't do this. You know, but it's a story that I want to thank all the women out there in many of the women groups, you know. I want to thank the Women Legal Association for those that...
Yes, the Female Lawyers.
The Female Lawyers Association that have also been following these cases and going to the courthouse to stand behind the mothers of whose women who have been violated in this manner. And so my appeal would be we must continue the discussion in communities. We must continue to tell the story. You cannot deprive a young girl, a young woman, of reaching her aim in life, you know, by being able to defile her.
Yeah.
It's a big story, and I wish all of us would join in condemning whenever we know of it, talking to each other to try to prevent it. It's like I say, it's sad. And we all continue to work on it.
Yes, you're right, madam. And I have to say here on this platform that in fact the Minister of Gender, the current Minister of Gender, Willamette Pisota and her team have really been pushing with this whole idea of sexual and gender-based violence prevention. And even the First Lady, Madam Claire Marie Weir, have been pushing with this because it just is unacceptable. And we will continue.
Then they both have my commendation. I'd like to applaud all of those who continue to work on this.
You are a living former president of Liberia. You are a rarity in our nation's history. We don't have that many. How do you feel? And how do you see the governance of our country? Because you know I was going to come to that.
I feel good. Very good. I mean, I served. I believe I served well as I could.
You didn't change the Constitution to stay on.
I did. But the one thing I'm proud of, that I broke down the imperial presidency. Because I live a simple life. You look at my lifestyle, you look at what I do, what I say, it's all that. So this is why when I turned over the baton in January 2018, I got in my car.
And drove yourself.
I drove myself home. I drove myself home to send people the message that imperial presidency was finished. But that doesn't mean you don't have an honorable life. That doesn't mean you don't expect respect. That doesn't mean that you don't expect to be revered for someone who has served your country well. And so I look forward to that. And thank God, because my service went beyond my country, because I've served in the international community and I've left a good record with them. Today, I'm respected by the international community, so they ask me to do a lot of things. I sit on several boards. I do special assignments for the United Nations Secretary General. I do special assignment for different of the agencies of the UN. I'm a part of other movements of promoting winning, responding to jobs for young people. It's a string of things that I do that keep me very busy to the point where I think my staff gets on such great strain, because sometimes we do the Zooms at 4:00 in the morning because of the time differences for the many participants in all these programs. But it makes my life full. And so I can feel proud of myself and proud of the role I play, and proud that I'm still a major contributor to development, not only development in Liberia, but development internationally, and that I get respect for that.
The governors of our country?
Larry, I don't get too many reports, on what's happening here. I should be accessing World Bank reports, IMF reports, African Development Bank reports on this. I don't do enough of that, I believe, and so because I don't like to listen to all the chatter, because the chatter will not give me the kind of true picture and true information that I want. So I try not to pay attention to that. And I believe that people can be of great service to their country in so many ways. You don't always have to be in government. You don't always have to talk government. You don't have to be about government. You can serve in whatever role, as long as you're serving the people, and as long as whatever you do is appreciated by people. It reflects the people's own priorities and their own views and whatnot. I'm happy with that, and I'm happy with the role that I play internationally, and I will continue to hope that I can do even more to be able to help Liberia to achieve the development goals that our people want.
Listeners and viewers, this is a special edition of the Liberian Renaissance, Changing Minds and Changing Attitudes. We've got former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf with us. We're very happy that she is here with us. Those of you who want to participate can message us on 0886 546 166. 0886-546-166. That number is also on WhatsApp. At some point, we will share your messages with the former president. Madam, are you in touch with President Weah? And if you are, what characterizes your conversation with him?
Well, President Weah and I exchange brief pleasantries from time to time, but we don't have conversations. And that's all right. When it was announced that I was taking this operation while I was in the States, he sent me a message and say, I wish God's blessing on you. Thank you, Mr. President. So that's the kind of exchange we have. We don't have conversations.
Is there a reason why?
No, because nobody initiated it. No, there's no reason.
Because he might want to drink from your fountain.
I don't know where's my fountain. I don't know what you.
But I'm glad that you all do have
No.
pleasantries.
It's like I say, it's pleasant mutual respect
Right.
on a personal basis. It's a personal mutual respect, and I think that's fine with me.
Okay, so I'll let these two young people chime in before I go to the second half of my conversation. Let's start with Caesar Fundo.
Thank you, Dr. Babette, for having me on the show. I'm so happy seeing our former president of Liberia. Madam President, today is a great day for me to sit with you and interview on this platform, changing mind, changing attitude. Of late, we are witnessing a lot of division amongst political parties and politicians. So, as a seasoned politician, what would be your advice to politicians and would-be politicians on how to keep politics in Liberia competitive and but peaceful?
Good question.
Well, I think you have stated much of what I would say, that politics should be peaceful, that politics should be about issues, not about personalities. Politics should be about those who can have a vision for the improvement of their country.
Okay.
And I hope that politics would have unity. I've been part of different groups of unity, of different coalitions before. And many times those coalitions fall apart, and therefore they don't achieve their objectives. And again, I hope if you don't have that unity of purpose, then of course you find fragmentation, and then the body, the strength of the body in being able to build the popularity, to be able to have the support, of their partisans, and to expand the levels and something of their partisans is also affected by all of these fragmentations. So my advice to all of those right now is, get with it, get with it, get together, take your vision, take your message to the people. It's that message that will help you to win. It's not all the talk, that will get you there. At least that was my experience, that at the end of the day, I try my best to stay on issues, stay on vision, stay on agenda, rather than staying on personalities.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Caesar. Let me just take a few of the text messages. Good evening, Madam Former President. I'm Prince Miller, following from 72nd. Thanks to the former president for availing herself to speak to the country. May God continue to bless and keep her. Good evening, Madam. We love you and miss you, and we thank God for you. One more here, and then we go to Rubing. Reverend Bropleh and your team, thanks for this special interview of our former president. Madam President, all I can say is thank God for keeping you alive, and you will live to see our country continue to get better. I will continue to hold you in high esteem. Please continue to stand up for women. I think
That your message, huh? Or for my message, or our two messages?
our two messages. They want our two, but other one is not you. The other one is not you.
You sure you won't stop there before it change, eh?
No, not you.
Everything looking good now.
They're looking good. They will continue to look good. The people still love you. My name is Mr. Gabriel of Anthony Bropleh Farm of Anthony Bropleh. Madam former President, as the only former president of Liberia on the stage now, have you ever called President George Weah for consultation on good governance as the former president of Mama? You already answered that question. So, all right. So, Ruben Dolly, this is your chance.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bropleh, for this opportunity. I'm Ruben D. Dolly Jr., but I'm president. I'm honored today, firstly, to meet you
Thank you.
and to ask you now this question on this platform.
Mm-hmm.
Madam President, during your presidency in Liberia, as a young man in Liberia, I was most pleased that you did a lot to promote women, girls, and young people at large. As a former president, are your activities still empowering young people in Liberia?
Yes, I'm trying to do that. The work at the center, I mentioned about what I'm doing about promoting women for leadership. But we also have a program for girls, because we have to prepare the girls in such a manner that they can begin to mature themselves until they get to the place where they can seek leadership. I'm a part of a foundation that promotes jobs. And those jobs, unfortunately, we still haven't been able to get that foundation to center on Liberia. And that's because sometimes it's so difficult to break through, some of the protocols and some of those things and whatnot. And so what I do, on a personal basis, I support tuitions from people. I support tuitions, people at the university, people at some of the private universities. I support some at Todi Mission. And so, other than that, I work with different international organizations that support women. I wish I could do more. I'm one of those that when I look at the fact that today we just have one woman senator in the legislature, I say, what more can we do? Well, politics in Liberia are tough, even for me, tough too, even for me. And so we have to try again to do more. The only thing I can say is, when it comes to schooling, if there's anything I did in my administration, was to ensure that schooling was free at the primary level, make sure that they have schools in as many of the places as we had the resources to provide, make sure that the teacher training institutes were re-established, so education was a focus. And we even got to the place where we were even moving into charter schools. So there's a whole thing about these charter schools like Bridge and all of those schools. Those were things that I initiated, and they were all initiated for young people. So, there's still more that can be done. I will continue to do. I'm thankful for the little that I could do.
Thank you.
Great. And Madam, just as a minor to that, we've actually got two senators. Senator Boto Kane from Bropleh, recently elected in the last election.
Yeah.
Yes. It took her long to sit down.
How could I forget that one there? Let me check if she's listening. My dear, you did very well, so I praise you. I know how you fought to get there.
Yes.
So I thank God for you.
And then Senator Yombli Kanga Lawrence. Let me just remind our listeners that this program is being simulcast, Truth FM, where Christopher Selly is, and Fabric, Prime FM, OKFM and here at ELBC, and there are many other community radio stations that have hooked up and are carrying this because they want to listen to the former president. Madam, let me come back to you. You've been a great advocate for women empowerment. Since you left office as president, what can you say has been your role, and what is your take on the way that women issues are now being handled in Liberia, governmentally and non-governmentally?
You know, I cannot say anything except the best of things for that, because I know the women, Angie Brooks, center, the things they do, the things that are done by most of the women groups. I've been to one or two of those places. You mentioned what the Minister of Gender does. And so I think the women are doing exceptionally well. I also know what Lima Bowie does, with her foundation. That's also very supportive of women and girls. And so we don't have the strong support in the legislature. I mentioned only two senators, but we also have we have members in the legislature, the Senate, the House side of the representatives, and I don't know much of what they do, but I think that I have nothing to say except that I see great effort on the part, and they having the means to do the things that so many of them want to do always is a difficult problem. Do they have the resources? Do they have the support? Many times we have the laws, but being able to make the laws effective can become a problem because the lack of commitment, the lack of resources. So that's all. And the struggle for women, don't forget, it's not just a Liberia struggle.
Oh.
We carry this struggle all over, not only in Africa, this struggle for women rights and women positions and women leadership. It's a world issue. So when I fight it not only on behalf of Liberia, I fight it on behalf of women everywhere.
Absolutely. I've got to go to a few text messages here. This one comes from North Carolina.
Oh.
It says, Doc, please read this to Madam for me. Madam President, thank you for nursing our nation back to life. Thank you for molding a generation of leaders. You are far from perfect, but you remain an inspiration to us all. We are your legacy. Ben Sandy. You remember Ben Sandy?
Oh, I remember Ben. Ben Sandy.
Yes.
Sandy with Liberty, right?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
madam. Absolutely.
Liberty Party.
Absolutely. And this one says,
Thank you, Ben.
Hello, Her Excellency, Madam Former President. How do you feel being former president? My name is Suspranik Goa. I write from Freeport. Well, I think she answered that already, how she feels being the former president. All right, we'll come back to messaging, madam, but I want to move us now into a little bit of politics. Can't get you, sis. The young man said you're a seasoned politician and not go political. Are you still a member of the Unity Party?
I always have been, will always be a unity partisan. I have been deactivated.
Voluntarily or involuntarily?
Involuntarily. But that's not my problem. That's not my issue. But let it be known to everybody that I have been, I am, and I'll always be Unity Party. So nobody can change that one. But you want deactivate me? Well, okay.
Would you like to be reactivated?
The deactivated people or do the reactivation.
Okay, I hear you. So you're out there, you're here, Madam, now talk. Madam, Liberia goes to elections, general and presidential elections in just 13 months. How do you see where we are as a nation, democratically and politically?
Liberia is doing well democratically if you look at the fact that people do have freedom of speech. You look at the fact that people take many of their issues and something to court and they talk about it. So in that respect, the freedom to be a member of a party, the freedom to contest in an election, those are all the good signs of democracy, and Liberia has them. Do we do good politics? No. And that's not just a Liberia issue. That politics will not stay above, the spites, the hatred, the accusations, the condemnations, and all of that take place. That's almost politics worldwide. That's not just Liberia. But we are a small country, and we have resource constraints. So when we do all of these things that the big countries do, they have strong institutions to put a stop to it going too far, to stop extremism. They have the means to protect people from doing things. Now, when our institutions do not perform with the kind of independence that they need, so they can be the one that put the brake between an executive or legislature or a judicial system that is not conforming to international standards, and you don't have this independent institution, and those institutions become political. That's where the problem is, because then the protection for people's rights are then undermined because of that. But democratically, yes, I think Liberia has been observing most of the major tenets of democracy. Now let's see if we can straighten out the politics too. Let's straighten out if we can get the institutions functioning in such a way that they can be part of the protection of these rights and a democracy that we all speak about because we love to talk about it.
Somebody's asking, Madam, person says, are you allowed to campaign for anybody during the election period?
It's not a question of being
Or will you?
allowed. And that's the best way to ask the question. Because nobody can allow me or not allow me.
Exactly. I was just reading the question the way they wrote it.
I do not want to. I will not campaign for anybody. I'm going beyond campaigning for people. Right now, I campaign for international issues, for global issues. That's where my strength is. My strength not campaigning for one person who won't be whatever.
You not put your weight behind anybody who won't be president, said?
What that? Oh. Well, if the person, anybody come and ask me a question, say, what do you think of so-and-so as my vision? What do you think of so-and-so as my strategy? I don't care who you are or what party you come from. If you say something that's in the interest of Liberia and you ask me for an opinion, I will give you an opinion. But to say I'm coming to come now and go on the feed to kind of camping with you, no, that one you will not see.
This is a special edition of the Liberian Renaissance, changing minds and changing attitudes. I've got on our platform former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. This program would say not ethnicity but nationality, not individualistic attitudes but rather the we consciousness, we the people, residing in Liberia, determined to make a constructive difference. Let me take a few more messages and then we will close up. We've got 9 minutes to go, unless Estelle Liberty tells us we are at liberty to go a bit further. Madam President, Mo Ali says, please say hi to Madam, and I'm happy to see her healthy. Former Secretary General of the Unity Party.
Thank you, Mo.
I'm not sure he was there when you were deactivated, but okay, so there are a few questions the messages I want to read, and then we will move on. And we want to thank there's so many of them, so that's why I'm taking my time, so I don't miss it, because people send me messages here already and say, you're not reading my message. It's a privilege, it's not a right. All right, so here's one good one here. All of them are good. Good evening, Madam former President. May I register thanks and appreciation for your service to Liberia in particular and the world over in general. I believe your multifarious roles in the world have added advantages to Liberia's image. Nevertheless, Liberia, like many countries in sub-Saharan Africa, is confronted with critical issues such as drug addiction, corruption, human rights abuses such as unlawful killing, rape, illegal imprisonment, and etc. These require consolidated efforts to institute change in mind, behavior, and attitude. What could be your shared advice to all Liberians, including government and other stakeholders? This comes from Mohammed Soare.
Well, I guess the first advice would be a personal one. People should be legal. People should not do anything that violates the law. And people should not participate in anyone who's doing something that is illegal. I also believe that the rule of law should prevail. That if anybody breaks the law in matters like drugs, things like that the law should take its course. But in terms of attitudes, is for people to carry themselves in a proper legal manner, do the right things. Stand for your right, but ensure that what you do is within the law and that you respect the rights of others in how you engage them and how you deal with them.
Madam President, everybody's sending messages, and you talked about coming back and understanding your commitment to the global arena in Liberia, hearing you talk about your take on what we need to be doing in Liberia in keeping the peace. I'm not sure you're in the know of this, but a few weeks ago there was a video circulated on social media, purportedly from a media outlet, that made wild allegations without any substantial evidence against President Weah. I don't even want to repeat what that video said. I don't know if you saw the video. If you did, what is your take on it? Do you condemn such a video?
I don't think I saw the video. There's so many times that I hear people talking, this video come out, that video come out, or this statement come out, or that statement come out. I really have not seen them. But the one thing I always say, people should remember to respect the office of the presidency. And there are times when we forget that. I have faced some of the same things. The disrespect of the office of the president. When you disrespect the office of the president, you disrespect the nation. I'm not getting into the personalities because I've not seen a video, so I have no means to comment on something I have not seen. But I do speak of the need. And I speak of it in Liberia and outside Liberia, we do the same thing. Please do respect that office, because it's the office that stands for you globally.
And I want to push that a little bit. You talked about thinking positively about your country. That video, without delving into what it tried to project, was ultra negative, pitting tribes against each other. Literally, if that video had any iota of truth, Madam President, it would take us back to the dark days. It was a terrible video.
That would be most unfortunate.
Yeah.
I've said my bit about, people do not realize the effect that all this bad publicity have on the country. We are trying to build Liberia. You have to have investors, but you also have to have clean investors, not people who call themselves investors and they come here and do all kinds of things to get rich, but real investors. But real investors, money is scary. Money don't go where there's confusion. The good money to develop a country goes where they feel they can safely do what they gotta do, make their money, create those jobs, do things for the country. But we can settle ourselves to be able to promote the kinds of things to attract this private capital that we need, to be able to get our infrastructure going. If we can all just concentrate on that for a little bit, without infringing on the rights that we know you all have. Everybody does have rights these days, and you have a right to use it, but please, be careful, because you harm yourself when you go this way with all of these things. I believe the media has every right. They are the watchdog of society. They have a right. If they find things to report, they should report it. But please, they should also be professional too. Try to make sure that you check it out, to make sure you got the facts.
Exactly.
Before you put it out, so you do not injure somebody's credibility, somebody's reputation, that they have worked so hard to get on something. I've been there before, so I know what I'm talking about. I know legal action that I took for 6 months, fighting somebody over something they say kind of money I have. I said, where the money? You see my house? Bill, yes. I go, where? You see how God live?
You say you build hospital in South Africa, huh?
Yeah, they're in trouble now. And I built hospital for my son.
Yeah.
The son who had never even been to
South
South
Africa.
You see, so those kinds of, and hard to stop those things. So.
Yes.
Yeah, everywhere.
Once you get out there.
People say, oh, she really got, do you think nobody can go build house in South Africa? Hospital? Yeah, my people. But you see, those kinds of things that, they're so injurious to people's reputation, hard-won reputation. It's just not fair, you see. And what can you do? The trouble is, you argue, you sue, you talk, and whatnot. Once they put that thing on you, and you always, it's just that so many people that know you better, have lived with you, know your ins and outs, and know it. Those people stand by you, and those people just look at you and they just dismiss it and say, this is stupidness, this is silliness, this is so wrong, and they don't pay any attention to it. But then you see, you can have other people who just want to believe anything somebody says. That it, then you say one thing, by the time you reach the next person, they got one arm. They reach the next person, they got two.
Wow.
Dear friends, we're winding down now. Just a few more of the messages that I want to read for Madam President. This one comes from Pune, the Irresistible. He says, I'm exceedingly overwhelmed and gratified, most respectfully, to bring you greetings and best wishes, Madam Former President. Question: what are your observations as it relate to our foreign policy currently? If you have any observations.
Frankly, I don't know if there's any particular issue with foreign policy. I do know that Liberia sits in the United Nations Assembly. Liberia sits in with all the other international agencies. I have not heard of any reason why it would be otherwise, So, but to say, I know the foreign policy, nobody has ever put something out to say, yeah, the foreign policy of Liberia, so we all can read it and understand it. Nobody's done that. So I can't go be searching, looking for what is the foreign policy, so I don't get it wrong. I don't know it, so I don't ask because I don't know it, but I do know that Liberia is an accepted member of the United Nations family.
Last one, and then I have my last question. Madam President, let me thank you for your service to Liberia over the years. I'd like to know, how did you do it differently when you were confronted with alarming issues like rice shortage or price inflation generally? This comes from Adolphus Kawa.
Well, with everything I did, I tried to set the example. I tried to meet with the people and understand the issues. I tried to resolve the problem through dialogue and communication, and understanding. And so I think it's the best way to solve some of these problems. I mean, if there's a rice issue, yes, we had rice issues in my day too. What we did was to first make sure we don't come up with any kind of policy that would be tantamount to adding to the problem of shortage. What we did was to call the different rice traders and discuss with them what is the issue, what can the government do to make sure that we support you, to make sure that you carry out what you're supposed to do. The banking system, how do we work with them to make sure those things, So you never know when other interests and, other vested interests is what can spoil things in a country. You got small vested interests looking for personal favors, looking for personal enrichment, and sometimes they do things like that. And that takes away from what is the proper approach to be able to handle what may be normal problems in every country. Every country faces shortages of some supply or the other. This is not new to any Liberia, but is, those vested interests that would find a way to go undercover and do all the things that are not in consonance with the law and good practice. That's where the problem comes.
I gotta get this in before we go. You were out of the country, recuperating, but I'm sure you heard that 3 government officials were sanctioned by the Treasury Department under the Magnitsky Global Act. Anything to say about that?
I heard it the way other people heard it. I always get, even when I'm abroad, I get right on my phone from 2 major newspapers. Front page and Analyst. I get it every day. By 12 o'clock that night, I get what their front page will be the next morning. So I got the same message, the same way that many people got it. When I saw it, I said, I can say nothing. This is United States business. I get involved in U.S. business. That's why, I have good relationship with the U.S. I think Liberia has good relationship with the U.S.
Absolutely.
Let them solve their problem.
Finally, as a nation and people, what must we do to sustain the peace that was so hard fought and won in Liberia?
I think some of what's happening now is part of it. And we've had it now consecutively for beyond the 15, I think we're talking almost 18, 19 years consecutively.
Almost 2 decades now.
So we should continue in this fashion. The right to talk, the use of law, respect for each other. I know there are violations from time to time. It happens in any country. If there's one thing, as leaving aside something, if you want to see a strong country, we have to stop being transients in our country. Transient means we really want to be in this country. Everybody looking for their chance to go to America. I know so many of them that work with me. They keep looking for the first opportunity. They go.
They will not come back.
And they will not come back. So another group come, they take over. As soon as something happens, they gone. So all the time we can have that continuity. Even from one administration to another, we never have continuity. And this is what brings growth and development. This person do their part and go. Next person come, they build upon that one. They expand it, they make it even better. Everybody stays. You lose your government job, fine. I'll go look for a private sector job. I'll go and do something on the farm. I will do what I can do to promote it. We don't do that way. Most people at all levels, I'm not talking about big shot, small shot, any shot. So they get some chance. They want to go to America. So we're just like a transient nation. Who are we? Want to be American? Or want to be Liberian? Or want to be African? Want to be African? Then please, look at the way some of the African countries develop. Look at the responsibility they take. Look at the ownership they take. Look at the things they do themselves, not waiting for everybody, not finding fault. The big thing, nobody can do something, nobody can take responsibility. Always it's somebody else's fault.
Yeah. Shifting blame.
Yeah. So this is the changing mind and changing attitude you've been talking about for how many years?
14, 15 years.
Well, I just joined you today to add to those words that you've been putting out so well, and to thank you, Larry, that you've been consistent in this. And this is why many people have been asking me to talk, and I said, no. The only time I would talk in Liberia, when I come back, I will call Dr. Bropleh, because I think that he was right. His whole tone and his whole purpose is to talk about the idea about changing mind and changing attitudes. Because until we as Liberians really sit and think about it, see the things we do and the things we do not do for our country, unless we all can do that and see how we can change ourselves. When you change ourselves, then you'll be strong enough to talk about changing others. So that's my message to Liberians today. Please, take a look at yourself. Be introspective. This is your country. Nobody will build it but you. Nobody can love it more than you. But you can only do it if you're going to change those attitudes and those habits. So to all of you, to the listening audience and beyond, thank you for listening. Thank you for those who sent some messages. I know the other ones will come on.
So actually many more messages, but
I know the negative one will come too.
it's part of the game.
That's all part of it. That's the free speech. That's part of the rights of people. And thanks to the ELBC team, managing director, and all her associates and assistants.
Viewers and listeners, we've had a special edition of Changing Minds and Changing Attitudes with former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And in a few months from now, we'll try to get her back if her schedule permits. think her voice is a voice of logic, wisdom, and every now and then we need to get her into studio. Changing our nation is not a business of the foreign governments and international organizations. We have to own our nation. We have to belong to our nation. And this sense of belonging must transcend the peripheral things that divide us so that we push to make Liberia better by transforming our minds and our attitudes. It's possible, and we must continue to do that, not for ourselves, but for our nation. Thanks to you, Madam, very much for always coming and availing yourself. Thanks to Estelle Liberty for being generous. Our time, we move into the news time now. Kevin Demi at Prime, Clarence Jackson at OK, Christopher Selly at Truth, several others that I may not mention now, but thank you guys out there for carrying us live. Thanks to Cesar Fundo, a young man who was a little bit nervous, but did very well, both of you, and Ruben Dolly, thank you very much. We're trying to get you to take over from us. I'm old now. Charles Johnson has been our technical director. Thanks to all of our people here. This country will continue to rise because we will do what we can to make Liberia better. Until next time, be an agent of change. So long.